Hello and welcome to the second episode of the PlayStation Country podcast. And as ever, I've got Gareth with me. Say hello.
Hello, everyone.
And yes, we're back. Now, it's taken a little longer to get back because I sort of fucked up. The podcast last week was really bad quality, and it was because I thought I was talking into my microphone, and I wasn't. I was talking into the condenser mic in my all-in-one PC monitor thing. So by the time I took out all the noise stuff with noise reduction, it made me sound like a robot. And I've had to buy a new headset, but I think we're looking good now, so we should be nice and regular again. Aside from that, a little bit of housekeeping. I also messed up the iTunes registration a little bit, so we've changed the subscription link, and basically if you find this podcast wherever you find it, you should also see the new link to subscribe to our iTunes. If you can leave us a review, particularly a nice one, that would be groovy. And apart from that, you can find us on at PS4 Country on Twitter and on YouTube. .com/PlayStation Country, and we'll try and get this podcast onto YouTube, so everything's covered. We're totally social media, and there you go. But we did already record most of what we're going to talk about, and we're gonna probably just have to act as if we haven't spoken about this before, so it's going to be dead awkward, and I wonder if everyone's going to be able to tell. But there you go. So before we get started on all the good games, how you doing, man?
Not bad, yeah. Been playing I've been playing one game, which I'll come to much later. But yeah, it's a bit of a banger. I quite liked it.
Oh, right, okay. That's good. That's good, because I think when we first recorded this podcast, we weren't sure about it.
No.
What game could that be? Who knows?
Nobody knows.
Let's find out in 6 games' time. So first up, I wanted to talk about Full Mojo Rampage. This is a sort of, basically it's everything that every indie game at the moment is. So that is to say, it's top down, it's twin stick shooter, it's a roguelike, it's, it's not going to win many points for originality, but despite the fact that it's falling into all these trappings and there's a million games like it, I'm actually really liking Full Mojo Rampage, mainly because there is that nice sense of progression, like when you die you level up a bit and you're a bit better, but also during the game you can pick up loads of different power-ups. So I quite like it. I've been getting into it a fair bit, and although it's not quite up there with Risk of Rain, which is my favourite, and maybe Rogue Legacy, it's still really, really good. Now, we actually played a bit together.
We did, yeah.
Yeah, a bit of share play magic going on.
Yeah, the future.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to convince you to buy it, but with Alienation being in the PSN sale and you just picking up Borderlands Handsome Collection, I guess it's going to have to wait a while. But what did you think of it when you had a go? Were you into it?
I mean, because it was share play, obviously I was a local player technically, and it didn't seem like that gave me my own character. I was just sort of running around like a ghost, and I was a lot weaker than you were and things like that, so that wasn't ideal. But from what I could see what you were doing, I could see it sort of... It kind of depends, like we only did the first... Well, not even like the first quest. We were in the first quest. We did the first few sections of it.
Yeah.
So, depends how mental I suppose it gets later on.
I wouldn't say it ramps up. I'd say it's quite a steep curve. But the game seems to also be very short. There's only 4 quests, and the quests are only built up of a few levels. So it's kind of got to do that, because otherwise you'll just blaze through the game really quickly. But
yeah. But I'd like to see a player on quest 4 and a player on level 1. Like level 1 is sort of shooting these normal bullets and stuff, and then hopefully the player on player 4 is getting health back whilst harming enemies, and they've got a spread shot maybe, and maybe they've got a satellite or something going around with them, shooting enemies as well. Things like that, where it's like, okay, I've made amazing progression, I can tell because look how badass I am. That sort of
yeah. I mean, that's one thing I do like about the game, though. It's got really good power-ups, and although your space, your inventory space, is quite limited, there's ways to mix your power-ups together, and there does seem to be that good sense of progression. There's loads of temporary power-ups and loads of permanent ones, and there's loads of things to unlock. So I do think that eventually you will be like the super badass, but it's one of those games where I think you could just sort of fly through parts of it that are easy, but you should explore and make sure you power up your character before you kind of move on to the next level, because you'll need that solid progression later on. So far I'm really liking it. I've put a review up this weekend on PlayStationCountry.com, gave it a good review. I gave it a 7, and that's really because it's got some good ideas, but the graphics are a little bit dingy. It's not doing anything particularly remarkable, but it's fun. And I've played a few games like it, Enter the Gungeon and Neon Chrome, which are both twin stick roguelikes, and this one's probably the most fun, and it's got a bit of a sense of humour about it. So yeah, it's decent. I think I threw the PS Vita code of Lumo at you. How you been getting on with that?
I played it a couple times, and like the first time I played it for about 2 hours maybe. Really enjoyed it. It was really good fun. Good nostalgic feelings coming through. It's like, because for those not in the know, Lumo is sort of harking back to the old computer days where you'd have an isometric game like Head Over Heels, or Batman was one. And I was a fan of Head Over Heels, not so much Batman. And I was enjoying it, a little bit of super basic platforming, 'cause, it's an isometric viewpoint, and you can't really manipulate it, so it's like, okay, just some normal platforming, no problem. A little bit of puzzle solving, bit of exploring. It was like, oh, this is fun. And then, I had to stop for the night or whatever. The next time I picked it up, got a bit further, still enjoying it. I came to like an ice stage.
The slippy, slidey ice world.
Yes.
Which you always got in the old games.
Yeah. But that combined with like the camera and stuff, it was awful, like really bad. And then I can't remember if it was before or after the ice bit. There was also a part with swinging on ropes, and it's like sort of, I don't want to say physics based because it's not, doing mad calculations or anything. But it's one where you got to swing, you got to create momentum to make it between ropes and stuff. And there were about 5 ropes in a row, not in a line. They were sort of at an angle from each other, and it was over a pit of death liquid, whatever it was. And it was like I died more on that part than I had at any point going up to that, because on normal mode you got infinite lives, so dying's not a problem generally. But yeah, like I just could not do this part for God knows, ages, really a really long time. And you've played games with me, I'm not one to give up that quick.
Well, no, because you're really good at platform games in particular, like Super Meat Boy and all that shit. You kind of eat that stuff up.
Yeah,
so if this is hard for you, then for me it will be literally impossible.
But it wasn't even like fun hard, I can have fun with a hard game. I got past the rope part.
Fun with a hard what?
Game.
Sorry.
And but yeah, this was just a chore, and like I'd make it to the 3rd rope and then I'd fail on the 4th, and then like the next time I wouldn't get to the 2nd rope just because it just seemed random. The controls would get confused with the camera angle and stuff.
Yeah.
And like you'd press left on your analog stick, and it would make the rope swing to the right for some reason, things like that, and it'll be like, what's going on? And yeah, it basically killed all enthusiasm I had for the game, like those 2 sections. I haven't gone back to it since.
That's fair enough. We did review it on the site, but it was on the PS4 version, that one. And
I also say the Vita version is a bit glitchy as well. It's the sounds can start looping and things like that. There's also, they sound quite crunchy, and the speakers like crackling and stuff.
Right, like the sound effects or the music?
All the sound effects, I think.
Right.
From what I remember. And also, it actually like hard crashed my Vita at one point. Like the screen was just, I think I paused it and it was just stuck on the pause screen. Whatever I pressed didn't do anything. If I pressed the Vita button, to go back to the Vita screen, it made the noise of doing that, and I think it played the Vita music in the background. But the screen didn't change. It was still the pause screen for the game. So I ended up having to hold the power button to like force it to shut down. And then I think I had to hold it to turn it back on again, because I'd sort of done the hold to shut it down thing. And I never had to do that before.
Oh gosh. No, I can't think of a time my Vita's crashed actually, so that's a bad sign.
Yeah. So if you're going to play Lumo, play the PS4 version, I guess. But I don't know.
And be really good, and make sure that you understand. Or
play it for a couple of hours and then stop playing it like I did.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Okay, speaking of playing games for a couple of hours, how about playing for about 5 to 10 minutes, which is what I did with Energy Hook. So our boy Grizzly on PlayStationCountry.com, one of our writers, he reviewed it, and he was dead keen to play it because it's by the guy who made one of the guys who made Spider-Man 2 on the PlayStation 2, and that was, a game that was known for being a big open world Spider-Man game. They're all the same, aren't they? But this was the one that set that template where you could swing anywhere, and it was, known for being a bit good. I wasn't ever that big a fan, but it did what it did. Did it quite well. But he's been playing it and he's reviewed it, and I think he gave it maybe a 3 out of 10 on the site, saying it's pretty bad. The camera's hard work, the controls are worse, and it's just not very good. But we got sent 2 review codes for it, so I thought I'd fire up the game as well, and yeah, man, it's bollocks. I couldn't get more than like 5 or 10 minutes in without just thinking, nope, I don't want any part of this. I don't want any trophies on my gamer card. Is it called a gamer card on PSN?
Is it your profile? Trophy
I guess.
Profile or something? I don't know.
Well, either way, I didn't want it on there, and yeah, it's just rough. It's so bad, and it looks terrible, and I just don't know why it exists. So yes, and the swinging just is super unsatisfying. So I'd say stay away from that. Check out Grizz's review. Yeah, shout out to the man himself, by the way, because he's getting married this week, I think. So yes, our boy Grizz is all growed up, and yeah, shout out to you, Grizz. Good luck with being married. I'm sure it'll be fine. And yeah, there you go.
Yeah, you played that old Bionic Commando thing, didn't you? Not the old one. I mean,
the 360 one,
yes.
That was like a proper game, like a retail one. Yes, I did. I loved it as well.
Yeah, so it's like you've got a frame of reference for a game about swinging between points.
I have, and with Bionic Commando, the thing that I really liked about it was that you would have thought it'd be a big open world game as well, but it wasn't. It was super linear, and I like my games to be linear. Like, I want them to be linear, and if they can't be linear, then be sandbox but designed. And then if they can't be sandbox designed, then they're basically procedural generated open world filth that I think super lazy game design. So the more linear, the better. And yeah, Bionic Commando was certainly that. But it also had good shooting, it had good swinging. You sort of felt in control, whereas in Energy Hook, I mean, the default sort of sensitivity and controls are so bad. Like, it's comedically bad. I haven't checked any reviews from anyone else, any other sites, but I bet it's getting proper slated. Yeah, I'd say stay away from it, even if you like swinging. Yeah. Anyway, you've been playing. Well, you played Banner Saga back in the day. I say back in the day. It doesn't
January,
seem like it was that long ago.
I think.
Yeah. You quite liked it, and Banner Saga 2 is out now. So what can you tell us about Banner Saga, and more specifically the follow-up?
Well, this description covers both games because they're pretty much the same. If you remember Oregon Trail, the old computer game.
Oh, I sort of do, in that I've heard of it.
Yes.
But I think there's a new PS4 game called Oregon Trail, which sounds like it's a bit of a rip-off of it. But we'll get onto that in a bit. But yeah.
Yeah, I've not played Oregon Trail either, but I know it's about you're in a wagon or whatever, and you've just got to make it from one destination to the other, whilst bad things happen, and hopefully you've prepared enough by buying stuff or whatever to make it all the way to Oregon.
Yeah,
I assume that's where you're going. But yeah, that's basically what Banner Saga is, in that you're being sort of chased across the land by this infinite enemy. You go along and you're just watching these 2D animated characters, this really good looking game, go across the landscape, and then just a box will pop up and it will have a little description of something happening, or one of your advisors or whatever you want to call them would come up and say something, and then you get a choice to say, oh, these people are getting a bit rowdy, what do you want to do? And it's like, oh, tell them to stop it, or beat up the head guy and then they won't do it again, or I'll let them have their fun, morale will be better for it, or something like that. And basically every choice will probably end up being bad at some point. It might be an instantly bad thing, or it might be later on down the line, because you told off that guy, he's going to come back and steal a load of food and run off or something. But yeah, but then you're going along, and then there's this infinite enemy, like I said, and sometimes you'll fight them, or sometimes you'll fight other humans or something. And yeah, you go into a battle screen. Again, it's isometric. It's just theme. Um,
Hmm.
and you've got all your characters and you've got all your enemies and you're sort of lined up. You can actually like choose where your characters line up at the beginning of the fight. It's quite interesting. I don't think it actually makes a huge difference because you've got quite a small space to work with.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then you take it in turns, like literally you move and then your enemy moves and then so on, and works through your characters. And yeah, you move on a grid. You want to attack an enemy, but then it's got a little wrinkle to the normal formula that you'd get with this sort of grid-based strategy game, where everyone's got a strength rating and an armor rating, and so your strength is both your HP, your health, and your attack power,
Yeah.
and then your armor just sort of defends against how much damage you take. And so it's an interesting little tactical thing where, well, if I attack your health, then you actually not only are you closer to dying, but your attacks will be weaker because your strength's gone down.
Right.
But obviously, if your armor's at max or whatever, high up, then I'm going to do less damage to your health when I attack you.
Do you get a sense of whether or not there's a better way to do it, or do you think like there isn't a sort of a winning technique that you've got to experiment? Like
Yeah,
you've played you've played both games
yeah,
now. Are you sort of still unsure as to whether or not you should go for health or armor? Or is it dependent on the enemy type?
yeah. It depends. Like some enemies are weaker than others. You got your bigger ones and things like that. And also it depends which character you're using, because if they've got a bladed weapon, that tends to be a bit better against the health rather than the armor. Whereas if someone's got a mace or something, then that tends to be better against the armor. That seems to
Yeah.
be the case anyway. I've played both, but like I'm not going to be writing a guide about either one for me.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. You're not doing the game FAQs
No.
guide to it.
So it's well, I just generally approach, who am I controlling, who am I attacking, and also when you do it, it gives a little it gives a breakdown of what's going to happen as well. It's not like you're going in blind. So
Right.
you can highlight, I'm going to attack the armor, and it'll be like 2 damage to armor, and then it'll be 3 damage to health, and things like that. And
Oh, so you can sort
weigh
of
it
pick
up.
which one you
Yeah,
want to do.
absolutely.
So it sounds like there's a lot of choice involved. You've got to kind of manage your people. You've got to figure out, all those decisions
Yeah,
outside of battle, and then inside of battle. It sounds like you could kind of be paralyzed by all that choice. Is that not really the case? Do you still sort of play it feeling fairly confident that you're doing the right thing, or is it like The Walking Dead where you break up a fight and next thing you know a baby gets killed?
yeah. It's like I don't think that you ever feel like you make the right choice. There's some times when you do make a choice and it says morale goes up, or you get some supplies, and it's like, okay, I'm assuming that was the right choice. But like I said, later on down the line, that choice may come to bite you, or you'll just get another choice and it'll just be like, right, we're too heavy. What do we do? And it's like, get rid of some of the non-warrior people. They're just weighing us down. Get rid of some of the food. It's like, whoa, these are all terrible decisions. But yeah, and then also sometimes characters will just leave or die or whatever. Like in the
Right.
first game, one of the characters, I think one of our wagons was going off a cliff or something, and you've got giant characters in it called, I think they're called Val or something. And yeah, he's basically holding onto a tree and onto the cart, and he's like, I won't let it go. And then it's like you can like tell him to let it go, and I'm not even sure if he listens first time or whatever. Or you can try and help him and things like that. And I think I did sort of save scum this sort of part because just to see what would happen. And
Yeah.
like basically all but one of the options ended with him being like ripped in half or something. And so that's one of your characters who you use in fights, and he's basically not there anymore. He doesn't split into two, and then you got 2 characters. He splits into 2 and dies.
All right. So that's kind of what the game is.
Yeah, and 2 is the same.
So yeah. So I mean, is it good?
It is. I mean, if you have played Banner Saga 1, Season 1, Chapter 1, whatever,
Yeah.
then it's up to you if you enjoyed it or not. If you didn't enjoy it, then 2 isn't going to change your mind because there are very minor differences. There are certain differences, and I'd probably call them improvements, but they're not. They're not going to change how you play the game or anything like that.
assume you have to have really played the first one to get the most out of the second, yeah?
Well, yeah, I would recommend, just because there is so little difference between the two, I would recommend you start on Banner Saga 1 if you're interested and you haven't played it, just because
Yeah.
you make the choices and they do carry over into the next game.
Yeah, so anything else to say about it?
Not really, good game, but it's as good as the first game, which if you've not played, play that.
If a third one came out,
Yeah.
and assuming, like, for whatever reason we didn't get a review code for it, would you buy it?
Probably not at full price. They're solid games, but I with the original and with the sequel, I found that it was a bit samey. Like what you do at the beginning of the game is what you're doing by the end of the game. It's like
Yeah.
you're making these choices, and yeah, they all seem to matter. So that's good. In that a lot of games you do make a choice, and it's like, well, who cares really? Or it's like Mass Effect, and it's like, well, I'm going to be an angel now, or I'm going to be a complete bastard now. It's like there's no grey areas or whatever. Like
Yeah.
that's sort of interesting, but the battles, they are like, I mean, it is interesting, and that's slightly different from your normal strategy RPG, but it doesn't evolve really, and
Fair
that's the
enough,
same
man.
with the second one.
So yet again, you go from like playing a nice big detailed game, and I reviewed Castles, which, although it might sound like some sort of RPG strategy game, is actually a match three puzzler. Um, and I sort of I don't know, the match three puzzler. I think that's a genre where pretty much if it's done right, then it's harrowingly addictive. But for years now, it's been also the poster child for like just in-app purchases, and so a good phone-based match-free puzzler is just going to be loaded with pay-to-win kind of transactional bullshit that you don't want. And at least with Castles, it doesn't have any of that. It's like straight up, here's your game. It's got a story mode. You play through it, and that's fine. But the actual game it's you're building a tower, and you're trying to build the biggest tower for the kingdom. Yeah, actually, it's a tower. You're not even building a castle. Why is it called castle? I never not thought of that until now. But essentially, it's a 5x5 play area. So you can only ever have like 25 blocks down at any time, and obviously, if you've got 25 down, that means you've just lost the game because you've run out of space. And yeah, you're just trying to match your blocks, in rows of 3, 4, or 5, based on either their colour or a little symbol that's on them. Because it's based on building, those symbols are like saws and hammers and various tools. And as the game progresses, it's giving you little quests. It will say, clear 2 lots of red bricks. So you have to get, a row of 3 red ones and a row of 3 again. And then it might say, clear 1 lot of saws. And that's it. And every time you do it, your tower levels up, and you go up a floor, and it gets bigger. You get to the 10th level, and you have a really tough boss battle. I've only played 2 of the boss battles. I think there's only 3 or 4 in the game, but they are really hard. And then that checkpoints, and then you've got to get through the next 10 levels without cocking up. I mean, if you die, you can restart, but if you quit out of the game completely, then you can only restart from level 1, 11, 21, 31. And that's pretty much it. It is just your standard match 3 bollocks, but the arcadey twist to it is that you don't control the bricks, you control a little guy who can push or pull or jump over bricks. So whilst that's kind of nice that it's different, it is a bit sort of clumsy and cumbersome. It's different, but it's not necessarily for the better. And there's a survival mode, there's a little bit of a co-op mode, and it's very, very simple. It gets, as in simple mechanics, but it does get tough, and ultimately it has no consequence. It is just a little puzzle game.
So are the blocks like three-dimensional in that you're saying push and pull? Are you flipping the blocks and there's a different symbol on another side?
No,
Okay.
none of that. You just push it as if like those old, what is it, Soccer Ban or something? Those games where you're just pushing crates around.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
it's sort of like that. Yeah, you don't flip them. You can jump over them just so that, because you can push or pull, but sometimes you have to jump over them just to get to another block. You can go around the outside and that's fine, but sometimes you just need to make a little shortcut for yourself by jumping over things. There's a hammer power up and a bomb power up that occasionally you get for doing 4 or 5 in a row, and that's really it. There's no complexity to it. There's no scoring mechanics or anything like that. It's just get through it, try not to get swamped by the bricks as they come in, and obviously, like something like Tetris, it gets kind of harder and faster as you go along. And I sort of found around level 25 it was starting to get really tough. And then I sort of stopped playing because the thing is, you kind of knew you were never going to see anything else. It wasn't going to throw any twists or surprises at you. It was like, it was just going to get harder.
Yeah, it's just,
and
are you good enough to play anymore?
Yeah, exactly. And it was just going to add more and more colours, more and more symbols. So it gets harder and harder to match things. I mean, it's weird. In the review that I uploaded today being Sunday, I sort of said, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, but I wouldn't warn them off of it either if they were interested. And as such, was the least helpful review I've ever written. But what can I say? I still don't know. I still don't know if it's good or bad. It just is. If it was on a touch screen and easier to control, it'd be probably better, but way too easy. So it's kind of made harder by the fact that it's trying to do something clever with the controls, which it doesn't need to do. So as such, if you see it really cheap, I guess you might want to pick it up. I mean, it's not even one for trophy whores because it's quite a hard game to max out. I don't think it's got a platinum, so yeah, there you go. But when we started this podcast, you mentioned that you really like this next game.
Yes.
This next game being Dex.
Yeah.
So first up, is that a PS4 or a Vita joint?
I was playing it on the PS4. I'm not sure if it is available on the Vita. I guess I could Google that right now.
Fair enough. And what sort of game is it?
Let me tell you a little story, Rich. You might not know this about me, but do you ever remember Games Factory?
Games Factory.
So,
no, what's that? A label?
It's an old PC program that allowed you to create video games.
Right.
And me and my friends used to do that a little bit. And we weren't amazing at it or anything, but as a teenager, my influences were strong, and there's like, what do I want to do? There's this 2D based game making program. What do I want to do? I really like Jet Set Radio. I'm going to make a 2D version of Jet Set Radio. Right. So Super Duper Skating was born.
Super Duper Skating?
Yeah.
Oh my god, you can't.
I had a sweet meaty intro theme, which was actually stolen from Virtual On Sega Saturn. And that was pretty sweet. And it was just like...
Was it Super Duper?
It was incredible. You'd sort of move from left to right, and there was a rail which I totally faked in that it just had a block which if you touched it you'd slide along the rail like an animation. There wasn't actual physics involved. There was a tag, there was cops to jump over as they didn't chase you, they just sort of ran forward. And then you sort of went to the left and you went into a building off the screen, and then you'd jump out of a window, like literally smash through the window and go up to the top, and you'd grind along there to get to the next tag. And that was the game.
So you basically invented Ollie Ollie.
Yeah, basically I made a lot of money. And also made Decapitation, which was a mixture of Crazy Taxi and GTA, in that you'd pick up characters, but you could also run everyone over. And that wasn't so much for game as it was a tech demo. Well, Super Duper Skating was more of a tech demo as well, but you could drive and pick up one character, and then you could drive to another point and drop that character off. That was the extent of the game. But it had a good name in Decapitation. That's a sweet name.
That's not bad. Super Duper Skating, I'm not sure about. Although actually, Super Duper Skating actually sounds like it might have been a game back then.
It was. I made it.
Yeah, well, I mean, like a legit game.
It was legit.
It was a legit game.
About?
Yeah.
You're ruining my wonderful story. Anyway, point being, if I was a fan of Deus Ex back in the day and I wanted to make a 2D game which had sort of bits of platforming and stuff in it, I'd have made Dex. See, that's where I was going with this wonderful story.
Like it.
And because that's what it is. It's a 2D game, and it's got quite a lot of platforming stuff in it. But the main gameplay loop really is you're going around this big... I don't even want to call it a hub world. It's just a big world, but there's all different locations in the city. And you're talking to people. They'll give you quests, or you can buy stuff. As you complete quests or defeat enemies, you get experience, so you can level up. Your leveling up could be, you could choose from anything from hacking to lockpicking to bartering to charisma, your strength, your health, all these things you'd relate to a Deus Ex type game where you can choose to play it whatever way you want. Like the first things I did was level up lockpicking to the max, because then it's like, right, if I see something, I know I can unlock it now. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to make a note about it or anything.
This is like last week when I said, that's exactly the sort of thing that gave me sweats over System Shock.
Yeah, but this one's not so bad.
I don't know what to level up, and I thought, do I go with lockpicking, which seems sort of important, or being able to shoot people, which seems even more important?
So that's the thing with Dex, you've got a shooting ability, and I was sort of, like I said, I did lockpicking first, and then I think I did charisma next, so that I could sort of convince people to side with me or whatever.
Yeah.
And so you've got your health, you've got your melee, you've got your guns, you've got hacking, things like that, and I ignored those for like the first. I mean, it didn't take me long to level up all those, but and I didn't feel any worse for it. You're fighting early on with your fists, you're pressing square, you've got a 2-hit combo. If you do level up your melee, you get a 3-hit combo, you get a sweep which just knocks someone down, so it gives you a bit of respite. You've got a hard kick as well, which sort of knocks people away. And you've got a block from the start. So all you've got to do is sort of block, wait for your moment, do your 2-hit punch. And I just did that for a lot of the game, because I leveled up all the passive stuff that would block me from exploring as much as I wanted and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And with guns, I finished Dex today. I didn't upgrade any guns at all. Any gun skill.
Did you use any?
No.
Oh.
Actually, tell a lie. There was one point where these little robots came in, and it was against the clock, because it was going to self-destruct, the area was. I tried punching them, and they were a bit shorter than me. It was a bit of a hassle. At that point, I did bring out a gun, just because, I could have run past them and ignored them, but you get experience for killing them, so I wanted to kill them, and I had about a minute to do it, so I was like, okay, I'm going to break out the gun. But generally, no. And the only time, there was a point in the mid-game where I thought, I'm going to have to level up at some point, because, there's enemies with guns, and they're just a pain in the ass. You've got to just try and chase them down before they can get too many shots on you. But as well as your normal leveling up, there's augmentations like in Deus Ex. You don't get them straight away, but after a certain quest you get the ability to upgrade your character in other ways, where you're purchasing upgrades with money. So there's again, I went for the passive stuff early on, so there's like one which allowed you to breathe in toxic gas, so that allowed me to explore areas which were full of toxic gas. There was one that made me immune to electricity, so there were areas blocked by electricity, I could go in there, and there was one which gave you a super jump. And so that allowed me to jump super high and find other areas.
Did that make it sort of sounds like it could be a bit Super Metroid-y kind of Castlevania
I wouldn't
thing?
say that much. I mean, the only time, there was like one area that was blocked off completely with toxic gas. That was it.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was for a side quest. You don't even have to go in there, I suppose, for the main quest. So it's not like, if you want to progress, you need this skill. If you want to do this, you need this skill. It's like, if you want to do all the exploring, which is what I want to do, that's what I enjoy doing in all these types of games, then you want to get the stuff which allows you to explore. So
let me just get something straight. Firstly, is it 2D?
Yes.
And seen from the side?
Yes. So
in terms of exploring and finding these areas, is it just left, right, up and down kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's like a big map, and like this split up into nodes, and that will be a big screen which will scroll as you go left and right, or even up and down. And a lot of those, like if you imagine the map, a lot of the central ones are just sort of city districts or whatever. They're not combat zones.
Yeah.
They're like, that's where you're talking to people, that's where you're buying goods. You can also explore there. They might have a little hidden areas, but you don't generally fight people in there. And then like the more outer skirt areas, you'll go through like a loading screen. You'll go into what I would call a combat area, but things don't respawn. So once you've cleared them out, you cleared them out, and then you'll get gang members just going around. And certain areas don't unlock until a quest allows you to visit that area, wherever it doesn't appear on the map.
Right.
And so yeah, exploring is just There is some sort of platformy exploring, but a lot of it is like you're in an area and you'll go through a door, which is obviously, you press triangle to interact, and you'll go into an area within the area
Yeah,
and
I got
things like
you.
that.
At the start of this episode, you said it was good.
Yes.
Essentially, you inferred that it's good. So I'm just trying to get a sense of it. If the combat is quite simple and there's exploring in it, does that mean that basically the good stuff in the game is the exploring, or is the combat pretty slick as well?
No, I would say the combat just doesn't get in the way. I
Mm.
really like the exploring element of it, and that you're sort of going around, and also the leveling up element. By the time, from the beginning to the end of the game, it does that thing that I said that Full Mojo Jacket, or whatever it's called, does, or should do rather, where you feel like a complete badass by the end of it.
Right. Okay. Was there much of a challenge through the game, or is it? It sounds like it might have almost been quite enjoyably
Yeah,
sort of chilled getting
I
through
would
it.
say that. I mean, your mileage would vary because, like I say, I enjoyed the exploring element. So as soon as I got a side quest, I'd sort of be doing that. Like,
Yeah.
like I said, I completed it today, and like I think I only did the second main quest today. Like I did a load of everything else was like my main bulk of gameplay was clearing out all the side quests. So
Right.
if you mainlined it, then you'd be way underleveled compared to what I was.
So, what's it like visually? Is it a good-looking game?
Not really. I'm a big fan of 2D artwork, and it's it doesn't do much for me, to be honest. I mean,
Okay.
it's acceptable for sure. It's
Fair
not
enough.
ugly game, but it's not. Some of the cinematics, there's not many in the game. Some of those are quite nice. They just sort of they look like they've painted them in Photoshop or something, but they're very nice. But like the actual gameplay graphics, not so much.
Yeah.
The crouch walk is like one of the worst things I've ever seen. It's
Fair
like
enough.
like this sort of thing. But yeah, what I would say though is at this precise moment in time is not the best technically, as in there's a few glitches. Numerous times I want to say at least 4 times, I got stuck in a wall and I couldn't get out. And I had to reload my save. It's
Right.
literally like, I mean, throughout the whole game, there's a little stutter as you play, like a little hitch. You'll just be running along, and then the screen will freeze for a split second, but enough for you to notice it, and
Yeah.
then you'll keep moving. And generally, it's not really a problem. I never really had it when I was fighting things or anything like that,
Hmm.
so it wasn't too much of a problem. I think it was more when you're scrolling the screen a lot, maybe.
Yeah.
And in these hacking games, you are moving around a lot. The screen's following you around. And yeah, I'm assuming that when it hitched, I'm still moving in the direction that I was moving, and it just moves me out of bounds or something.
Yeah.
That's what I assume's happening. But yeah, that's not a good thing.
Fair enough.
But generally, it was fine. And when I first started playing it happened to be like 2 times or whatever in a row, and it was like, oh great, this is going to be a pain, isn't it? But then it happened to be 4 times throughout the whole game, so
So not
generally it
too
was
bad
all
then.
right, but it's still something that shouldn't happen at all.
No, that's fair enough. So you kind of ploughed through it pretty quickly then, did you? Or
Yeah, I mean, there's no in-game timer in it, I don't think, not that I saw, so I don't know how long I spent on it, but I think I played it 3 times, I think. But they were
right?
big sessions, it was,
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but this sort of game I lose a lot of time to, like Deus Ex and stuff like that. It's like just doing the quests and leveling up and exploring and stuff. I can just play it for a long, long time and not notice and things like that.
That sort of stuff can be pretty addictive, I find. All those side quests. I mean, when I was playing Oblivion back in the day, it was just you'd get lost in side quests for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
So I kind of get it. Do you think it's called Dex because of the Deus Ex thing?
Well, the main character's called Dex. I don't know why she's called Dex. It could be
Oh, it's a she.
she, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Oh, twist, Super Metroid.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. But you recommend it. You haven't reviewed it yet on the site, right?
No, I'll either do it after we've done this, or I'll do it soon.
Okay, what's your gut feeling then, score-wise?
I really enjoyed it, but it's not. I don't know. It didn't make me feel special inside, and also the sort of technical problems. I'll probably knock it down to an 8.
Fair enough, fair enough. Your dog agrees.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's $2 for 8.
$2 right. Excellent stuff. So that was our running order when we tried to record this episode before. I've played a couple of things since, which I'll talk about on the next episode. So that's pretty much that. But in terms of site reviews, just having a look at what the other guys on the site have been reviewing, we've had, let's see, Pharaonic, which I think is some sort of side-scrolling Egyptian beat-em-up thing. We gave it 9 out of 10, so we like that a lot.
Yeah, he described it like a Dark Souls type thing, which piqued my interest because I'd never heard of it before or since. So it's
Fair
like
enough.
it's gone out to die, but if it's got Dark Souls influences, then that could be interesting.
We've also reviewed Kerbal Space Program, which is out now on PS4 as well. Quite a cute-looking but tricky space simulator thing, which hasn't translated well to the PS4, according to our guy Steve. I've reviewed Dangerous Golf, but I want to talk about that in some detail in the next episode because, hey, it gives us something to talk about next week. And that's pretty much that. So I think we're at the end of this goddamn podcast, man. Anything else you want to add?
Not a thing.
Anything your dog wants to add?
No, I think she's fine now.
Good. Right. Well, in that case, listen. Thanks to anyone who's stuck with us after our pretty bad sound issues on the first episode. Hopefully things are a lot better now, and you'll subscribe to the iTunes and you'll give us a bit of a shout out if you can in the reviews and all that good stuff. But stick with us. It's only going to get better, or it's going to get like incredibly worse. So that's cool. We should be back during the week, late next week sort of thing. So that's good. And thanks for listening. Gareth, say bye.
Bye.
Bye.